Greetings and salutations, my dearest friends. My name is Samantha, and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited to be filming today. I feel like tags like this are really fun because I don't film wrap-ups or TBRs, so sometimes I don't really talk about books that I'm reading unless I do a dedicated video. So this is gonna be fun. How many books have I read this year? I don't even know. Let's go on my Goodreads and check. I usually put a reading goal of 100 books a year. That's just like a standard number, but I really don't care how many books I'm reading just because I'm such a mood reader. Sometimes I'll read 3 books in one day, and then sometimes I won't read any books for like a whole week. So it really just depends. I said my reading goal is 100, and right now I am at 78, which is pretty good. I mean, not as much as some other booktubers, but I'm still really proud of myself. So yeah, 78 books so far this year. Let's just jump right into it. So the first question is best book you read so far in 2021. This one is a hard one because I already know what book I'm going to talk about, and I actually just read this book, so it's kind of hard to put it like in a top tier status, but it really belongs there, and that is Pool Boy by Nikki Sloan. I filmed a whole video just gushing about this. It was like 10 minutes of me just raving and raving about how much I love this book because it's everything I wanted in a book. It's steamy, it's emotional, the relationship is beautiful, love their characters so much. It was just perfect. Like, to me, this is the perfect book. So it is an age gap romance, an older woman, younger man. Pretty taboo because not only is he her pool boy, but he's also her best friend's son, and they also kind of work together. She's a musician and she is a manager at a record label, so they also work together. Lots of taboo elements that just, it was amazing. Heroine, probably one of my favorite heroines I've ever read about. She was so confident and sex positive. Loved seeing her journey. She just recently got divorced. She found out that her husband was cheating on her, so she decided that she was going to really take this time for herself, do things that make her happy. She ends up getting a boob job, which is relevant to the story. After her boob job, she ends up going to her backyard and decides to tan topless. You know, all the goodies are all out there, and her pool boy is there and sees her, and they have a steamy moment and they form a relationship. This isn't just like steamy times though. This really was such a beautiful, heartfelt relationship. The way they bonded over music and the communication with one another. Loved this romance. It was a perfect romance, truly. So yeah, that has to be the best book I've read so far in 2021. Another one that I've really liked, and I feel like is kind of underrated, is The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Waite. This is a sapphic historical romance. One of our heroines is an astronomer. Her father recently passes away, and she decides that she's going to write a book on astronomy. She's been working in the scientific field for a really long time, but always hiding behind her father's name. So she decides that she's going to make a name for herself. The way that she meets our heroine is very involved in the scientific community because she's a huge benefactor for them. Her ex-husband, who passed away, was also an astronomer. She is just getting out of a really kind of toxic marriage. She wasn't happy with her husband. He was pretty verbally abusive, and she's just not feeling very confident about herself. The ladies spend some time together, they form a romance, and it is beautiful. And love their communication. This like was one of those books that had me smiling the entire time because I just loved them together. Like, they were true soulmates. So the second question is the best sequel you've read so far. This was also hard because I don't read a lot of sequels. I'm not someone who loves series. Like, I'm definitely someone who gravitates towards standalones, but I did read a sequel to a novella by Risley Adams, and it is called Deeper. If you guys didn't know, Go Deep by Risley Adams is one of my favorite novellas of all time. It's a friends to lovers romance. Everyone is an erotica writer, and she is lacking inspiration, so she ends up propositioning her best friend to hook up with her so she can get some inspiration for her book, and it follows their romance. Loved the first book, and the sequel to it is Deeper, and I'm so sorry if you guys can hear like the kids screaming in the background. Don't know what that's about. We're just gonna keep going. The sequel to that book is Deeper, and it follows their wedding, or wedding day and wedding night, and loved it. I really wish more authors did this, that they just gave us like short novellas of the characters happily ever after, because that's what I love about romance. I know some people like the angst or some people like the plot, but for me, I love a good happily ever after. I love seeing our characters happy, and yeah, this one was great. Another one that I really liked was Lovers by Fiona Cole. This is the second book in the Voyeur series. This entire book follows a club, and you can kind of like pay someone to act out all of your fantasies. This is Jackson's book, and it is kind of a menage, love triangle, polyamorous book. It's a very angsty, messy book between three characters, Jackson, Jake, and Karina. It really follows Jackson's story though. He ends up bumping into his old college friend Jake that he has pined after for a really, really long time. When he meets up with him, Jake is engaged to Karina, so he thinks like he doesn't have a shot with him whatsoever. But Jake and Karina end up inviting Jackson to join their relationship and kind of spice things up because they're in a little bit of a rut, and it follows the romance. Like I said, very, very angsty, very messy, but I could not put it down. I loved it so much. Okay, so the next question is new release you haven't read yet but want to. So many books, like I have a never-ending TBR. One is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I know this is a really popular book because of Beach Read. I loved Beach Read. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. One of my favorite romances, so I really want to read this one. I have read other Emily Henry books and didn't like them. I read 2 other Emily Henry books that I gave 2 stars, so Beach Read was kind of the only book I liked from her. Also, like, so random, I want to read this because of the cover. Orange and green are my 2 favorite colors, especially that color combination together. I know, I'm weird. I just really like the cover. Another book I want to read, and it's super popular on BookTube. Everybody loves it, and it's Real by Kennedy Ryan. I need to read this book. I have it on my Kindle Unlimited, and I'm just waiting for like that perfect moment where I can just lay in bed and binge the whole book, and it's gonna be a good time. Our heroine is an actress, and our hero is a director, and it follows their romance, and can't wait to read it. Next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Okay, I have quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit. Katie Roberts has a lot of books coming out soon, and I need to read all of them. So there's Queen by Katie Roberts. This is the 3rd and last book in the Bloodline Vampire series. All of these books end in a cliffhanger, and they just leave me wanting more. I need to finish this series. Vampire, polyamorous romance where it follows 3 guys and 1 girl. They're all in a relationship together, and oh my goodness, I am so excited for the end of this series because like I said, the other 2 books end in cliffhangers, and I need to know what happens. Katie Roberts is my girl. Like, I love everything she writes. I love everything she writes. Excited for The Groom, The Maid of Honor, and The Runaway Bride. I think this releases in October. This is the 3rd or 4th book in the Touch of Taboo series she has going on. It's another polyamorous romance. You guys know I love those. Our bride runs away on her wedding night with her maid of honor because she is secretly in love with her, but she is also still in love with the groom, so they all kind of come together, and I think it follows their polyamorous romance. I'm excited. Oh, Laura Olympus by Rachel Smith. I know that this was released online and so many people loved this, but I'm not really someone who reads like webtoons or comics online, so I've been waiting for it to be like in a physical print so that I can read it. The graphics look beautiful. The story looks really fun. It's a Hades Persephone retelling. Really want to read this. I also think it comes out in October. Lots of books coming out in October. Then, okay, I could have done a whole video on my anticipated reads. Maybe I'll do that. But one more that I'm excited for is The Perks of Loving a Wallflower by Erica Ridley. This is a sapphic historical romance. I just feel like we don't get enough sapphic historical romances. Really want to read another one. The next question is the biggest disappointment. This is an easy one. It's Once and Always by Judith McNaught, and the reason this was such a massive disappointment was this was actually a book pick in my book club that I do with Jessica called The Historical Hellions. I don't know why I said that so weird. So many people said this is the best Judith McNaught, and they kind of lied to me a little bit. I feel a little betrayed because this was such a massive disappointment. I ended up giving it a 2 out of 5 stars. I filmed a video where I wrapped up all of the books we read for the book club so far. I will link it down below if you want me to talk more in depth about this book. But really, to the core of it, this book has major consent issues. Our hero straight up rapes our heroine. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, and it wasn't attractive. It wasn't a good time to read about. Characters are also distantly related. They're like 2nd or 3rd cousins. Again, weird to read about. Just like so many things about this book was not a good vibe at all. Our heroine is American. Her father ends up passing away, so she ends up staying with some distant relatives in England where she meets our hero. Neither of them are really interested in each other at first because our heroine is pining after her childhood sweetheart, and then our hero is just really not interested in getting married. Somehow they end up together. It's not really that romantic. I say you can skip this one. Yeah. Next one is Biggest Surprise, and that is another book pick for the Historical Hellions, shameless plug, and that is Love Only Once by Johanna Lindsey. I've read quite a few Johanna Lindsey's. Love what she has done for the romance community and how she was really like the forefront of a lot of the historical romance covers and just like the queen of romance in its time. But I just don't really like a lot of her books, just personal preference. So I kind of went into this with not the best expectations because some of her books do have consent issues, but I loved this book. Similar to the first Bridgerton book, The Duke and I, but I actually like this one better. And our heroine ends up getting into a marriage of convenience because our hero accidentally mistakes our heroine for his mistress. He accidentally kidnaps our heroine and ruining her reputation, so they have to get married. Our hero is best friends with one of our heroine's uncles, who has a surprise pregnancy trope, which you guys know isn't my favorite trope in the world, but I think this one did it really, really well. So yeah, this was a pretty big surprise because it has a lot of tropes that I typically don't like, and I love this one. This question is favorite new author, and I'm definitely gonna have to say Daniel Allen. I did an author binge video where I read a bunch of Daniel Allen books, and I liked all of them. My favorite from her is Truth or Dare. This is a friends to lovers romance where our characters are meeting up years later at one of their friends' wedding, and they get dared to kiss each other. And they get dared to kiss each other, they realize the sexual tension they never realized before, and they decide to explore that. Loved this book. There's also one called Heartless that I loved by her, and that is another surprise pregnancy trope. Again, not my favorite trope, but Daniel Allen did it so well. All of her books are on Kindle Unlimited. They're like the perfect size where they're a little longer than a novella, but not quite as long as a full-length novel, which is like the perfect length for me. And yeah, she just checks all the boxes. I love her books. So the next question is Fictional Crush, and I really feel like I could pick so many, but I'm gonna have to pick, oh, I don't even know. Okay, I'm gonna pick Hades from Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. He's the perfect alpha mellow where he's like an alpha male, strong badass to everybody else. But with our heroine, he's such a soft cinnamon roll and like absolutely worships the ground she walks on. Like, love. This is a Hades Persephone retelling and it's amazing. Next question is newest favorite character. Oh, that is so hard, but I'm gonna have to go with Erica from Pool Boy by Nikki Sloan. Loved her confidence, loved how sex positive she was. She was just like a great heroine. Her communication was great, and yeah, I loved watching her journey. Like, even if it wasn't a romance, I would still love reading about her because she was just a total gem. Question is the book that made you cry. Here's the thing. I'm really gonna answer this question because I am a 100% emotional reader when I read. I cry in almost every single book that I read because I don't know, I'm an emotional person, I guess. I will even cry when the couple gets together and has their happily ever after because I'm just so happy for them. Like, all of the books I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I cried in all of them because I just love that moment when our characters like prevail over everything and they're together, and it just makes me really happy for them. So I cry. So yeah, I would definitely say there's not like one specific book that made me cry because I cry in all the books that I read. My camera keeps dying, so we're just gonna have to wrap this up real quick. I am gonna talk about one book that made me happy, and that is Perfect Matcha. This is the third book in the Bold Brew series. It's a novella, and you do not have to read them in order. They're friends to lovers romance. It's a male-male romance, and it was just so freaking cute. It was so cute. One of our heroes has always pined after his best friend, but it just never felt like the right timing, especially because he dated one of their other best friends. So he just didn't really feel comfortable ruining their relationship. Well, our hero Theo Ends up getting an invitation to his ex-boyfriend's wedding, and he's just feeling kind of bummed. He just, not because he's pining after his ex-boyfriend, but because he just wants a date and he wants someone to love himself, basically. So he's very shy, not really comfortable. A friend that has been pining after him for a really long time. He works at a sex shop, and he decides to kind of boost his best friend's confidence. He's going to buy him a bunch of toys and kind of, you know, they can explore things. Obviously, our hero Theo is just really shy, doesn't really know how to use them, so he ends up propositioning his best friend to help him, follows their romance, and it's adorable and steamy and fun. What is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received? Oh, that is hard, because you guys know I just love buying pretty books. I think this one, I just took a picture of it for my Instagram. This is Spitfire. It's a historic romance, and this cover to me is like the classic clinch cover, gorgeous, absolutely stunning. Was really happy I bought this. I found this on Thrift Books. I saw Jessica from Peace Love Books haul it, and I mean, I needed to have it. Look how pretty. The prettiest book I own in my collection is Where Passion Leads by Lisa Kleypas. This is the first book Lisa Kleypas ever wrote, and this cover is an out-of-print edition. It's really hard to find, but I was lucky enough to snag it on Amazon, but it was sold by Thrift Books. More pretty books, because that's just the type of person I am. This one is a Kathleen E. Woodiwiss book. I love like this size. I didn't even know that she had books in this size. And look at this gorgeous freaking step back. This reminds me of like Music of the Night in Phantom of the Opera, when they're in the dungeon and there's like all the candles and they're singing. Stunning. This one is also really pretty. I found this at my thrift store for like $2. This one is called The Spitfire by Beatrice Small. Classic clinch cover. Classic. So the last question is the books that you need to read by the end of the year. And all of the anticipated books that I've talked about, I really need to read. I want to read all of Lisa Kleypas' books. I have read a lot, but there's also a ton I haven't finished, just because I always save her for like a rainy day, because I just know I'm gonna love her books. Yeah, I think that is it. I'm sure there's a bunch of other books that I didn't talk about, but you know. Enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with me. It means the world to me. I hope you guys are all staying happy and healthy, and I'll see you next time. Bye!